In my hand, I have a 50p coin, and this coin will decide which man gets the first choice of swim. Every time one of us catches a fish, you'll have to remove an item of clothing. First man to have to get naked loses, the match ends, and it's time to go home. For this month's session film, we're out with Lloyd, and because of that, we've come to the Linch Hill complex and we're going to fish on Willow Lake. This place is pretty much a home away from home for Scott. I don't think he does a lot of time on Willow, bounces onto that one in between fishing Stoneacres or Christchurch, but the fish in Willow are incredible, as they are in all the other lakes on the complex, and we've got pretty much 48 hours-ish ahead of us, and my plan was to ask Scott if he wanted to do a little bit of a match. I know he likes a match. Anyone that follows him on social media and whatnot will have seen him battling out with Tom Maker and losing, and I thought I'd spring it upon him when we got to the venue. However, when I spoke to him on the phone the other day, it took him all of about 35 seconds to offer me out and ask me if I wanted a match. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a match. It's not going to start just yet. I've got a bit of prep I need to do. Scott's all ready. He got here yesterday, obviously. I'm sure he's been baiting, checking and all sorts. So he's definitely had a bit of a head start. I haven't got any rigs tied or anything. I need to get that done. So we're going to get prepped, and then at about 12 or 1 o'clock, we're going to start the match.
Yeah, I love a bit of a match, me. Obviously, as soon as Elliott asked me if I wanted to come back on sit, like, I was straight on it and I challenged him to a match straight away. It's on my home turf, so I'm pretty confident. He's coming at a match, I'm coming at a tuition. Went up there yesterday, had a look around, there's plenty of fish on the surface, in the edge and out in the pond as well, so I think it should be a good 48 hours. Yeah, I've got a few little tactics up my sleeve. You know, obviously I've done plenty of fishing on here, so I know they love it in the edge, or solid bags in the edge, or even on the surface as well. If we can get them going, should be well up for it. Sun's out, so sun's out, guns out. Yeah, so we're going to go up onto Willow. There's plenty of fish in there, about 100 or so fish, loads of bangers, you know, 30s, 40 pounders, some of them, real rare ones. But we are going to have a little bit of a rove around as well, you know, there's plenty of water around here. We've got Christchurch next door as well, so who knows? I'm open to anything. I'm sure we'll get a few fish anyway.
Right, sorry to interrupt, but whilst I have your attention, I just want to talk about a couple of things. Firstly, would you please subscribe to our YouTube channel? We would massively appreciate it, and you will stay very much up to date with everything YouTube orientated that we do. Secondly, and as well as asking you for a little favour, we have a little something that might be of interest to you. If you click the link in description or scan the QR code on screen, you will be entitled to 50% off your first 3 months as a Cypography member. And as a Cypography member, you will get access to over 1,000 videos and several other member perks. Once I got all my bits and pieces sorted, tied my rigs and whatnot, we made our way along the track in convoy and up to Willow. And the first thing to do was obviously have a look around, and we decided to do that together as a pair. Scott got down yesterday, he was here this morning, and he basically said that he'd seen fish in quite large numbers up the top end of the lake. So that's where we headed first. But on inspection, there didn't actually seem to be that many fish there. There's a large area of trees up there. It's got a big rope in front of it, so it acts as an out of bounds. Well, it is an out of bounds. Lots of snags there though as well, which most of the time you think would hold carp. However, the numbers of fish he'd seen in the morning had dispersed, and we think that's largely down to the fact that that end of the lake this morning was quite quiet, but when we arrived it was much, much busier. There's a lot of anglers up there and only a couple of swims left. So Because of the lack of fish, we then came back to the bottom end of the lake, because when we actually arrived at the entrance to the lake, where the Willow sign is to welcome you there, as soon as we got to that point, we did see a fish. So we were headed back there, having seen very little up the top end. There were a few fish up there, cruising around on the surface and doing what you'd expect them to do at this time of year. But the edges and the out of bounds in particular, they just look devoid of carp. And if there's not fish in and out of bounds, then there's a reason to worry. So, like I say, we headed back down towards where the cars were, and straight away we were met with signs of plenty of carp all over the surface, all through the edges. We could see fish from 5 foot off the bank, even closer at times, right out to the island, which is probably 60 yards out in front. So it was black of them down that end of the lake, and that was going to be an obvious choice for us to go. But we spent a little time looking around in all the bushes, checking the spots out, various swims. There's 3 or 4 swims free along this bank, whereas this morning they were taken. There were anglers in there and there weren't carp there. So what's happened is those anglers have disappeared. Other anglers have turned up and gone up the other end where the fish were. They spooked them down back to where the cars were, and just so happens that those 3 people that were in the swims in the morning had gone, and the fish were there with plenty of snags and plenty of water that had no angling pressure in it at all. That is not the case anymore. We're going to fish up this end, but the first thing to do is decide on the rules and who's going to get first choice to swim. Okay, so in my hand I have a 50p coin, and this coin will decide which man gets the first choice of swim. So we'll do a coin toss. There will be a point scoring system, and it goes as follows. If you catch a double, that's 10 points. If you catch a 20, it's 20 points. And if you catch a 30, that's 30 points. The match will finish on Friday. However, it could finish early. And the reason being, every time one of us catches a fish, you'll have to remove an item of clothing. First man to have to get naked loses, the match ends, and it's time to go home. The rules of the clothes removal are socks, 1 item, shoes, 1 item,
Yep.
trousers, 1 item, t-shirt, 1 item, hats, glasses do not count, bomber jackets do not count.
I've got 3 pairs of boxes on.
Right, that also 1 item. So yeah, so they're the rules. If we get to Friday and a man still has his clothes on, it goes to the point scoring system. If it doesn't, that's because one of us has ended up naked. So first things first, the coin toss. Would you like to flip or would you like to choose?
You fuck it.
Head or tails?
Tails. Never fails.
You were right. May the best man win.
Good luck, mate.
No one likes to lose a coin toss, but if you do lose, the pressure is not on you. And I did lose, so all the pressure is on Scott. He got first choice of swim, and like I say, the pressure is now on him to succeed. Between the pair of us, I think we're both going to go in with pretty much the same approach, and that is not to get too carried away, not to put all our eggs in one basket, just float around and see what's happening.
How fast your ass lad.
The plan was just to float around a little bit really. There's fish all over the place and they're going to move a lot. When the fish are on the surface, they drift all over the lake and they can be in one area 1 minute and another the next. So rather than get carried away, like I say, and just go straight into a swim, both of us just decided to not flit around, but just get a few little bits out the car, nothing too major, a rod for this and a rod for that. And the first approach I went in with was the floater fishing.
Just waiting for an opportunity to get the rig in now, really. Well, just to even get up the tree. I need to see where the fish are, where they're feeding, and then when they mooch off, I can get down the tree and get the rig straight in position. But yeah, I can't even get anywhere near the water at the minute because they're literally sat right here. So I'm just going to wait till they mooch off. Fish are literally ripping up right here. I'll need to wait until they go. There's some more fish further down as well, ripping up. I can't just walk in with a rig while they're there, otherwise they're going to shoot off. And they won't come back. So it's just a waiting game now, otherwise it's a waste of an opportunity.
There were carp from 6 foot out, right out to the middle. They were on the surface, and I just thought a single mixer would be a good approach. You know, pinging it out, dragging it back in their path, and hopefully one would come up and snatch it. And I had seen fish on the surface cruising around and taking little bits and pieces, so I thought that would be a good idea. But after a little while of trying, I was seeing so many fish in the margins. You know, every now and then I'd just put the floater rod down, go for a wander, look in the edge, and I was seeing carp. So with the floater fishing, they seem a bit wary of it. I'm sure they've been fished for loads like that. So although I did try it, I didn't try it for too long, and my attention soon turned to the edges.
Taking clothes off already. That's 1-0.
Along the bank where the track runs, there's loads of different spots, lots of bushes overhanging in the edges, and if you take the time to just hop up a few trees and creep into the margins to have a look, you'll see the little spots where they've been polished off, and that's exactly what I did. Walking around, just checking, tricking a little bit of bait on a few spots as well. You know, the idea being that you can put bait on it, return to it later, and hopefully there'll be fish feeding. So that was how I sort of started. But through checking quite regularly, you know, just keep walking up and down, keep looking. There was one area where it seemed that every time I checked, there were carp sitting on the spot. A lot of the places I was seeing them, you know, the fish were in amongst the branches. You couldn't put a rig where they were. But there was one area, a very small poke hole in between some trees, next to a bush or like a big limb, and the fish, every time I looked there were fish sat static on that spot. And a spot like that, generally, if they're sitting on it, they're very happy to be there. You know, a lot of the other spots, although they were passing over them, they wouldn't really stop, predominantly because they were in open areas in front of the swim. So this one particular spot where there was cover, it was tucked into a place where I wouldn't imagine too many people normally fish, that was where I decided to go in. It was a very small spot, so it was a 6-foot rod jobby, and because of the nature of that, I just decided to use a 5-ounce lead. It's great for the margin fishing. It's what I pretty much always use if I'm fishing in the edge. A nice short hook link. Again, when you're fishing in shallow water and you've got fish like these that are pressured, normally a nice short hook link and a big lead is a good way to go. And I use it's not a solid bag, it's kind of a cross between a solid bag and a PVA bag, but by wrapping my hook with tape, I'm able to sit that inside the PVA bag, then fill the bag with bait, but I'm able to put bigger items of food in. With a mesh bag, ideally that's what I would use, you know, I'd just put a mesh bag, thread it down the hook link, but when I want to use the bigger pieces of food, I can't do that with the hook. You know, if I pull the hook into that, there's every chance it's either going to blunt the hook or pull it straight into a piece of food and leave it masked. So by wrapping the tape around the hook, lowering it into the bag, and then just tying it off at the top, I'm able to ensure that I can use the bigger items of food which I want to use, whilst ensuring that my hook point isn't burred or masked. It's then a simple case of lowering it in, and I say a simple case, it can be a little bit fiddly sometimes, and that is why I carry a bait pole. I've made it years ago, I use it a lot, pretty much every single time I fish in the edge. That's what I use to put the rig in. And in small confined spaces where you can't just swing the lead out with ease, it makes it much easier to get that rig in position. So that's what I did. Put my lead, my little bag into the spoon, crept into the bush, and then just carefully shipped the pole out. Obviously I made sure there's no fish there when I did it. The last thing you want to do is get too carried away, and as you put the pole out, the fish come in. So I made sure I waited, watched what the fish were doing, ensured that they weren't on the spot, you know, they'd moved off, and then chose my timing very carefully, slipped the spoon out, and then just dropped the rig down onto the spot. And because it was so close to the bank, I was able to see my lead touch down on the bottom. After that, it was a simple case of just sitting tight. You know, it's really, really important when you're fishing in the margins just to try and stay still, stay concealed, and in order to try and hide myself a little bit, because I was sitting right on the rod, right by the water's edge, I put my hooking mat up as kind of a barrier. I found a rusty old pole in the edge, propped the mat up with that, and that formed kind of a screen, meaning that when the fish was sat in the snag, they couldn't see me, and when I sat on my water butt just behind the screen, it gave me some coverage and would enable the fish to hopefully come in and feed whilst I was obscured from view.
Yeah, so I've already lowered a solid bag on the gravel that I saw the fish feeding on. I prefer fishing the solid bags on the gravel just because it doesn't stand out too much. If I put this onto gravel, everything's going to stand out like a sore thumb. Yeah, so yeah, it's just a nice little parcel, one mouthful, job done. But there's another spot a bit further down what I've seen some fish on that's a bit darker, you know, a bit silt still left on the gravel, so I can sort of tuck this lead and the hook wink and everything into the silty bit, and then just let this little nut just rest onto the edge of the gravel. So it's just to hide everything really, and then the fish aren't seeing it all. Fish has just come in straight away. We're investigating already. Keep coming through. Yeah, so I've got up the tree, I can see both rigs in position and they're bang on really. The solid bag's on the gravel where I wanted it, and the nut rig's just in the bit of crap on the side of the gravel. The hook bait's resting on the gravel. But, yeah, the first couple of fish that came in were just twitching off the nut rig because I put a few crushed nuts around it, and I just think because they'd been in here a minute ago and they weren't there, they sort of sussed it and shot off. I've had a couple more fish come through and they seem quite up for it, but I'm pretty sure, I mean there's one just under me here, two under me actually. I'm pretty sure I've seen the same fish go from my bag. Couldn't quite make out the bag from where I was, but it definitely did that nut. Like, it either clocked it or it did it. It definitely just twitched off and shot off, so it clocked something. It might have just been the freebies, but yeah, there's a couple turning up now, so I reckon we've got a good chance here. Well, that didn't go to plan. Swan's just absolutely done me. But I did see some really good fish in there, so just letting the swans clear it up. Hopefully they'll mooch off and the fish might even come back in with it all being stirred up. But that was definitely a failed attempt. It's a Tench here. Did you get any points for Tench? Get off. Yeah, so initially today I just started with 2 rods, found some fish actively feeding in the edge, so I had to wait till he mooched off first. And yeah, put left-hander out on a solid bag, just straight on the gravel, and then the right-hander was just tucked in the silt at the edge of the gravel. Everything was absolutely spot on. If them fish came back, it was a bite, 1-0 to me. But literally about 10 minutes later, swans just come dive bombing in, absolutely messed the chance up. Like, I tried to get down the tree quick enough to run around the corner and draw them off with some mixers, was having none of it before I knew it, the chance was over. I brought the rods in, obviously, and yeah, about 10 minutes later, the swans had cleared up all the freebies, and it was game on again. The fish would come back in, everything was all stirred up, you know, like the white inquisitive creatures. And yeah, but the fish they just seemed a bit more on edge, you know, they knew something was going on, and they were just a bit further down the shelf in the bowl. So I put 2 solid bags out this time, straight on the gravel, and the fish came back in, you know, and it looked good for a chance. A few came in, I got sort of good bit of video footage of some on the gravel again, a bit further up, so I ended up putting a 3rd rod out, and all the while I just could tell that there was getting less and less fish in the area. There was a lot of fish down this end earlier on. I put that down to all the pressure that came on this morning, but I'm pretty sure now everything started to move back down there for the night. It's all gone overcast and that wind felt a little bit cold on the surface. I noticed the fish's behaviour. They were happy on the surface in the sun. As soon as that wind came on, they were getting down and getting a little bit scatty, and that just told me that they weren't really feeling that wind. I've been down the other end now, had a quick look. There's a couple of sheets coming up, same area as they were this morning, so I'm going to go down there for the night and yeah, get some rods out.
Just tucking myself behind the screen, I was able to just hide out the way, and they fed on me several times. The first fish that came in and fed, it took a little while, probably half an hour, 40 minutes or so. That was a small common. He came down and fed, and once he'd done that, I guess he'd disturbed the bag, kicked up the smells, and the taste was in the water. Other fish dropped down to feed. And that kind of was a pattern throughout the rest of the day, really. If one fish fed, most of the time, the other fish that were with it, they would feed too. And most of the fish I saw were commons between sort of 15 and 25 pound. But there was one point where a very, very big carp came in. I don't want to say it was the biggest fish in the lake. Don't really know exactly what that one looks like, but it's definitely one of the biggest fish. It looked all day 35 pound. It was big, much, much bigger than anything else I'd seen. And he came onto the spot and he came from the right, and as he came past, he dropped down, but when he dropped, he was right on the left-hand edge of the bait, so most of the bait was behind him. He's had a mouthful, and obviously tasted what's behind him, and then he's turned. And at first I thought it was quite a leathery fish, because as he righted himself to turn round and feed on the bait, I saw a big leathery patch across his back. But then as he twisted, this big set of scales opened up, and it was a very big, very scaly carp. And he must have fed on me, I don't know, 6 mouthfuls, you know, tail in the air, having a right good go. A couple of other fish came in after as well. He soon disappeared, and I didn't actually see him again. But I did see another big fish as well, and they just seemed to be coming in, feeding right on top of my rig. You know, I placed it very carefully so I knew exactly where it was, and they were just feeding on top of it, and nothing was happening whilst I'm just sat there behind the rod. And it got to the point where I just thought, something is wrong here, I need to redo this rod. You know, I hadn't put hardly any bait in, just a little bag to start with, and a few other little bits, and I'd seen them feed so close to my lead, I could see my lead on the bottom, and I just thought, something's not right. So came to the point where I thought, right, I'm going to redo it. There were no fish present. I decided to lift it out, and when I lifted it out, there was a piece of Canadian pondweed about 6 inches long, which obviously wasn't there when I put the rod out, probably been wafted onto the rig by a fish while it was feeding as they were passing over. But I'd got rid of the weed, and rather than mess around with a pole and risk spooking them, because by this point they were coming in regularly, you know, every 30 seconds or so I was seeing a fish passing through, and quite a lot of the time they were feeding, probably fish that had had a mouthful, disappeared, and then come back for another go. I redid the rod, but like I say, rather than mess around with the bag and the pole, I just lifted up a branch and just swung the lead down into position, saw it land on the bottom, and obviously it's perfectly clean. I made sure this time it was sitting on crisp gravel, and fish did come back in and feed after that, but it's just not the same. You know, I'd waited a long time before deciding to reel the rod in. The last thing I wanted to do was reel it in while there were fish feeding. A lot of the time, you know, you think something's wrong and it isn't, but this time it was, and I think by the time I put the rod back in position, it just wasn't to be. But one fish did come in, and you know, while the rod was in the new position, and I thought I was going to catch him, there's like a crayfish cage in the margin and a rope going out, and the rope was dead taut, whereas obviously the cage is on it, keeping the line tight, or the rope tight, and he's feeding, and the rope went on his nose, lifted up onto his back, and I could see it, like he was really rooting around. The rope was over his back, yeah, and he disappeared. And after that, the rope was slack, so he'd moved the crayfish cage up the shelf slightly. Yeah, epic to watch. Very frustrating, I must admit, not to have had a bite. But I decided just to wait. You know, they were still coming through, not as regularly, but there was still a chance. And you know, I just thought, if I wait and I hang it out, hopefully there'd be a chance. Well, as much as I've longed and longed for this rod to go, it just happened. It's been pretty intense sitting here on this bucket, on this water butt, sorry. And I've been here a long time. What's that? Crayfish? Oh, Jesus. Crayfish, I think. The line's twitching. Tench. Okay, right. Well, that'll do for an end. Right, he's in the net. Right, well, as long as I've sat here and longed for this rod to go, it hadn't done until the tench. The fish have been in and out constantly, and I've been sat here behind this mat. Because of the tree there, I didn't want to sit too far back, you know, so I've sat on the rod, which, if the edge fishing I've done over the years has taught me anything, that, you know, the closer you are to the rig, the closer you are to the rod, the less chance you have of getting a bite. You know, the fish know you're there a lot of the time. with that said, I've had some good opportunities. You know, like I say, they've been on me and they've fed on me multiple times, and big fish as well at times. However, the traffic seems to have stopped. I'm not seeing hardly anything. You know, I've seen lots of carp here throughout the day, but for the last couple of hours I really have seen very little. There's a couple of fish in the bush. They're coming in and out every now and then, but it's not enough to warrant staying really. The fish, even the ones that are out in front, they seem to have gone as well. Scott's gone up the other end, and you know, as much as we're having a little match, still want to have a bit of a social with him, and the fish have gone. So Scott's gone up there, and I reckon the fish have gone up there as well. Obviously I've been sat in this bush, so I've not got a great idea of exactly what's going on, but we haven't got long left till dark, only a couple of hours really. So I was going to reel my rod in. Definitely I don't need to reel it in now because I have a tench in the net, but yeah, I'm going to go up the other end, and I'm guessing that's where the fish have gone. So I think if we both move up there, we'll certainly have a better chance than we'll hit. I think if I sat here all night on this water butt, I'd probably get a bite, but at the same time my back would break. I've had back troubles over the years, and yeah, I could do without having any further problems. So I'll deal with this tench and then make my way up the other end, or at least go and have a look around the lake and see where I'm going to end up for the night, because it's not going to be here. As much as tench are wonderful little creatures, I'm sure there's something a little bit evil about them, probably the red eye. But to make the best of a bad situation, I decided to get Scotty over, kill a bit of his time. The last thing I wanted was that while I was dealing with a tench, he was out catching carp. So got him to come over to the swim, have a little photo session with me, which I'm sure he wasn't too pleased about, but we are in a match after all.
I think that's just at the back of the hump. Seems a little bit smoother. Yeah, so it's last light now. Just about got 3 rods out. Got them all tight on the same spot. Already knew the area. Well, I fished it a couple of years ago and I knew sort of where to cast. There's a couple of humps out there, so I'm just fishing on the side of one of them. Put like 10 spoms out, bit of krill, bit of tiger nut, put a 3 noodle rig straight over the top, nice and tight. Hopefully, fingers crossed for a bite in the morning, and hopefully Elliott don't catch anything.
Right, I've had a little bit of a change of plan. I'm no longer going to go up the other end with Scott. They have filtered out and disappeared, it seems, but that could be for a number of reasons. The fact that there's so many anglers up the other end, the fact I've been up there, haven't really seen anything. Even earlier on, I didn't really see a lot of fish up there. Scott's up there now. I don't think he's seen a lot at all, and I just feel like if I move up there, it'll be partly to have a bit of a social with Scott, and secondly, in the hope that the fish turn up there, where I don't want to fish like that, you know. I know there's carp here. They have been here throughout the day. Before I went up the other end, I went and checked one of my spots that I'd baited earlier on in the day, and there was a carp feeding on it. You know, I'd put a couple of handfuls of bait and he was there chowing away, and it also looks like the spot has been fed on quite heavily. So I know there's carp here. I know I can put my rigs on spots where fish have been throughout the day. I'm sure they'll pass that throughout there during the night. They're in the snag still, not loads, but there are fish there, and that's the important thing. The water I'm going to be fishing is much shallower. Down the other end of the lake, it's probably 10, 12 foot where I'd be casting, you know, up against the rope towards the outer bounds. That's deep, it's very warm, and I want to be in shallow water, and I want to be where I've seen carp, and I've got that here. So rather than go down there and hope something happens and hope the carp turn up, I'm going to stay up this end where I know there's carp. I know they'll feed on the spots because I've just seen them doing it, and I think that's my best chance. The light is really fading now, so this is probably going to be the last time you see me today. I'll pick things back up in the morning, and I think that the morning's going to be a real good chance, even if it doesn't happen throughout the night. Those first few hours of light, when the lake's nice and quiet, you haven't got people walking around, crunching, casting, that is the time that fish are going to creep into the margins. And if I've got my rods in position now, although I ain't got long to do them to get them right, I have got long enough. So I'll get the rods done tonight, and hopefully I'll catch one throughout the night. Worst case, I think I've got a really good chance come the morning. must have been 11 o'clock by the time I got my rods out last night, and basically I just put them right down the edges, kept them really close to the bank. One rod went on the spot I'd seen the fish feeding late in the evening, and the other rod, the left-hand rod, that went just down to the left onto a spot that I'd seen a lot of fish passing over throughout the day. And I was confident with a bite, to be quite honest, but it didn't happen, you know. And when I put the rods out, they were absolutely perfect because I put my waders on, waded down the margin with a head torch, and I was able to pick the exact spot that I placed the rig, the lead and the bait on. And yeah, you know, I did everything I could really to get a bite, and I thought there was a good chance that I would, but that wasn't to be the case. But throughout the night, I did hear a few fish towards the island. They seemed pretty close to the island, to be quite honest. And I nearly cast out there in the dark, but the rod that I had that I could have cast out there was obviously in the car, a long way away from the rods. So I decided just to wait until the morning, basically. And once it got light, beautiful morning, mist everywhere. I saw another fish up against the island almost as soon as I opened my eyes. So I went and got the rod, rigged it up with a single hook bait, same rig that I always use, but a single 18 miller, glugged up, covered in powders and that, and a little yellow tipper, you know. So although it was a single, very attractive in both visual properties and smell and taste, and just pinged it out up against the island.
Been up since first light, and it's a pretty uneventful night really. All the fish did definitely back up at that end of the lake where we found them yesterday, but they haven't come down as far as where I am. We're all out in the middle of the pond. See quite a lot fizzing out there this morning, boshing. I've seen a few down to me right in the out of bounds there, and just this side of that rope, so I've actually wound one in and chucked a single down there, just a single bright, just a nil that I can maybe snatch one before feeding time's over. Well, yeah, definitely made the right decision coming down this end. I spoke to Will, he's not had any action, so he said he's not seen anything really. So hopefully, might be able to nick a bite here, but if not, it looks like it's going to be a nice day. Maybe a chance on the surface or in the edges, something like that. See if we can get hell naked.
Turns out the change of tactics was a move well made, and I can't help but think I should have done it earlier. I just should have done it in the dark. The rod had been out under 10 minutes. A nightmare casting it, fluffed my lines big time. Must have been 5 or 6 casts to get it out there. I've not fished for 7 weeks and I was really rusty casting against that island. I thought there's a chance I could have spooked him, but the rod's gone and the fish is just down here off the margin. He looks a real scaly mirror. Yes! Scotty, get them clothes off.
Lost me socks.
Result. Happy with that. Very, very happy with that. It's a lovely carp, and I definitely need to get that rod back out. I was sat on my bed. The plan was to put 2 rods out there, but because the first rod went so badly, 5 or 6 casts, I just thought I can't risk putting another one, so I was just going to leave that one. But I did mark the line just in case, and when I cast against the island, it was surprisingly shallow. I reckon, I don't know, maybe 6-7 foot. And the rest of this lake is deep. You know, if I dropped shorter, it was much deeper. And that's a real good sign. Shallow water. This time of year, I'd much rather be in shallow water than in deep water. And the fish I've seen by that island are no doubt there because that water is shallower. But yeah, just got to get another rod out there now, and this one back in position. So I'll unhook the fish and yeah, time to get the rods back out. With the fish secured safely in the net, it was time to get not only 1 rod cast back up against the island, but 2. And I leave the fish in the net, not only so I can get my rod back out, but to let the fish get its energy back. At this time of year, it's very raw, and particularly this summer, the weather has been crazy, crazy hot, and there has been a lot of dramas around the country. I'm in contact with a lot of people, and I've heard of some pretty horrible stories this year, purely because of the heat. So left the fish in the net and decided to reel my left-hand rod in. I wasn't too confident in that one. Of the two margin rods, that was the one I didn't really fancy. So cranked that one in and then put that one up against the island alongside the other one. The rod I caught the fish on, I put that exactly where I caught the carp. I knew the distance. And the other rod, just thought I'd try it a little bit closer to the island, see if the water was even shallower, and it was. That was shallow. The right hand rod, or the middle rod, sorry, but the right end of the two against the island is probably in about 6 or 7 foot, I would guess. And the left hand rod of the island rods, that one was in probably, I reckon, 4 or 5 feet. It was definitely a little bit shallower. Didn't go down quite as firm, but nice shallow water. And like I said earlier on, that's key. Well, I would love to sit here and talk about how beautiful this carp is for ages, but as much as he is beautiful, he's been an absolute pain in the arse. He will not stop going crazy, flapping around. I've got silt in my ears, eyes and up my nose, and yeah, he ain't happy. So I won't hang about too long. I will show you both sides though, because as I'm sure you'll all agree, it's a beautiful little male carp, classic Oxford carp, and exactly what we've come here to catch. Let me just lower him down and I'll spin him around and show you the other side. There we go. Look at that. What a lovely start. Very, very glad I moved that rod. Bit gutted I didn't move it sooner, but that's how it goes. Fishing's about decisions. Sometimes you make the right ones, sometimes you make the wrong ones, and sometimes, in this case, you make the right ones in the end. 1-0, time for Scott to get a phone call, and an item of clothing will be removed. 10 points on the board. Lovely jubbly. Right, well, how's about that? I was just about to do me pictures of the fish, and my right hand rod, the one down the edge, the one I was adamant I'd catch on at some point, is away. It's a common, I have seen it. Just slip these waders on, he's right by my other lines. Oh. They always go when you least expect it. Oh, it's over my other line. Oh. Oh, Jesus Christ. Right. Hopefully, I'll be able to bring him back under. Keep this tip down. Them lines are quite tight fishing out to the island, so I should be able to get him back under, I'd have thought. And where he is, oh, he's just there. Not a bad fish. Not a bad fish at all. Oi, 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 oi. I've got one in the net, pulling the net away. It's a good common. Oh, some other lines. Oh. Big old inline has dropped off. you're going to use those massive leads, you know, 5 ounces is it's a heavy old lead that. You've got to fish them drop off style. You can imagine this now, as he's coming up to the surface, that big old thing rattling around, that's the last thing you want. So as much as a big lead is great for the edge fishing, you do have to drop it. Normally I'd just move them rods out of the way, but because this is quite a deep lake, as soon as if I drop my lines onto the bottom, I think there's more chance of him going through them. By keeping them like that, because they're quite tight, that line is higher in the water, less chance of him going through them. So they're not ideal where they are, because this canopy above my head's making it quite hard to get the rod up, but I think they're better off like that. Just bide me time. I have to pick my moment wisely here. Getting turned, that's it. Oh, that was close. Come on. Just them trees, just can't get a rod up. Rod where it needs to be. I've had enough. Get out of the way. Right. There's only so much you can afford to mess around. It's not a tiny carp by any stretch, so. Oh. Number 2, that will do. Oh, oh, he's big and all. Result, he is big. Jesus, he's much bigger than that other one. Quality. Yes. After the way things unfolded yesterday, sitting there in that bush watching those fish tearing it up over my spot and not getting a bite, I really wanted to catch one at the edge. So to have landed that rather large and rather lovely common, to say I'm happy is an understatement. And once I'd secured it safely in the net, got the little mirror out, did my pictures, you know, I was in the middle of doing them when I had the bite. There's no way I could have put him back without a photograph. So done the pictures, let him go, and then yeah, with the common secured safely in the net, time to redo all the rods because it was, you know, going all over my lines and that. I tried to avoid it, but in the end I was just getting fed up. So by dragging them out of the way means I had to recast. So the rods have been rechucked, up against the island again, and this time, rather than having my left hand rod tighter to the island, I've put it at exactly the same range as the one I had the bite on. I thought it was worth an hour fishing tighter, but you know, it'd been out there a while, so the fact it hadn't gone meant that I just decided to put them both at exactly the same range. And hopefully, I'll get a bite, you know. 2-0, feeling pretty good about that. But yeah, I need to get the margin rod done. I haven't replaced that one yet, but yeah, very happy boy. Well, there's a plus side to letting them get their energy back, and this is the downside. Right. Luckily, Scotty boy's lent me his sling and his scales because I've forgotten mine. Just under, oh, it's just over 32. I can't really steady on. Just over 32. Results. Spinning round. There we go. How's about that then? What a lovely carp. Did feel like a better one while I was playing him, especially in comparison to the first when he was coming up on the surface. He looked big, and he certainly is. Somewhere between 32 and 33 pound. Can't quite read the scales properly, but look at that, what a result. I am very, very happy. Gonna spin him around quickly. It's very hot, so I don't want him out for any longer than I have to. Beautiful. There we go. Happy bloody days. Oh, I took my socks off. I've got thorns digging in my feet. Time to get him back. Right, we've come into the water because it's pretty hot out there. But look at that, the spot I caught it from is literally just there. If I wasn't holding this fish, I could probably reach it. Absolutely wonderful. Oh, off you go. That way there's a snake. Yes. Well, the weather had hotted right up by the time the fish was sorted, and the fish were pretty active on the surface really. You know, all the signs of carp that I was seeing were out in the lake, you know, fish cruising round. I've seen a few in the edges, you know, I've been baiting my spots throughout the day, checking my spots, and the one I had the fish going on yesterday, the bait had gone from there. However, I've just checked it again, and I think a coot is eating it. All the pellet I put out is still there, but the boilies are missing, and that's a sign of the birds really. The first time the bait went, it was all gone. But during that period of the day, there were a lot of fish about. It wasn't too far away from the time I actually got the bite out the edge, so that could have been carp, but now the edges, they do look dead really. There's still a few fish in the main snag, which is just down to the right of the tree that I'm currently perched in. And from here, I'm basically looking straight down onto the spot I caught the 32 pounder from. Still pretty murky from where I pretty much trod on it earlier, putting the fish back. And I don't think an edge bite really looks like it's on the cards. I think my best opportunity is going to be out in the lake on a mixer. I certainly feel like I need to have a walk round anyway, so I've cranked my rods in and I've got all my rods ready for the night. I quite often rush around when I'm fishing, you know, running around the lake, and I manage to get my rods out just before it gets dark a lot of the time. But when you're doing the filming, things just take a bit longer, and a lot of the time, you know, I do myself over really, end up casting out too late, just getting dark or just got dark. So I've got the rods ready, they're all rigged up, ready to go. I'm going to definitely stay in this swim for the night, without a doubt, and all I'm going to have to do later on is cast them out. So I'm in a good position to be able to walk around the lake and just hopefully work another chance. But this spot isn't looking great. None of the other spots are looking great either, and like I say, I think my best chance is going to be on the surface. So I'm going to slip down, go and have a little wander.
When it comes to floater fishing, like, I think persistence is key. I mean, sometimes, my first pot of call will always be trying to just, even a hook bait, you know, just a single hook bait on its own. If the fish got well up for it and are taking bits off the surface, you know, I'll just go in with a single wire trap the birds if you could potentially get a bite with just putting a rig out. So I'll start that way, but generally, it's going to be feeding the birds off. You know, if you can't be sneaky and just maybe try and get a little catapult in, it's going to be feed the birds off. And the key to that is persistence. Like I said, like, you know, it can take a full bucket of mixers to get rid of them. You know, that's gulls, geese, swans, the ducks, everything. The gulls being the worst ones, but if you just keep going, they will eventually fade off. And you usually get about a 20-minute window when they've finished eating them all, and then that's enough for a bite opportunity. One thing that I do is just soak them all in oil, all your mixers, soak them in oil, and what that does is it gets them drinking. You'll see that they drink a lot of water when they're eating your mixers, and yeah, that obviously swells the mixers inside the stomach, and it fills them up a lot quicker. I can tell you, the reason I'm not catching isn't through lack of effort. I'll tell you that for nothing. That's brilliant, that is. Just about sums up my day, that. Just about sums up my day. Never ever seen that many geese on this lake until today. And that's it. They've gone off to the right now where I was hiding the fish away. That's brilliant. Just at first trying to sneak a little spom out. Well, the birds coming over. Try and keep these birds off. And away from that spom, and hopefully that parade of doesn't come back. And the gulls stay off for a minute. Just need them to, even if they just get a little taste, and take a few of them. Be happy days. Oh no, no. Oh. I think it's gonna get any worse. That's a 30. He's had another one. Look at that. Oh, what's he for? Eggy lad. You know what to do, mate. I hope you're proud of your body. You spelt your Y-O-U-R. It should be Y-O-U-R-E. That's not right, you Elliott. I'll burn him. Always devilled. I take pride in my grammar. Lapse in concentration. Oh, it says it's going all out now. Right, I've got to fix up, man. Bye-bye boxers. Oh, man. It'll be the boxers, won't it? 2 days old, isn't he? Well, enjoy.
Well, you know what they say about the best laid plans and all that? Just as I got out of the tree and readied my floater rod with the plan of wandering up and down the bank, particularly up to my right, I'd been seeing fish there were no one in those swims. Got the rod ready, looked round, and a couple of fellas walked past and they went and bucketed the swims. And as much as I crossed my fingers in the hope that they'd change their mind and go somewhere else, they did set up next door and next door again to the right. So those 2 swims were out the game, and the fish that I was going to go and have a go for, well, I was then not able to go and fish for. So I had a go in my swim. There were plenty of fish in front of me as well, but the reason I'd reeled my rods in was to, you know, rove around the lake really. And having spoke to Scott, I knew there wasn't really a lot going on up the other end of the lake, so I just persevered in my swim, had a few casts, put a few mixers out, but the birds were a problem. The fish didn't really seem that interested. They took the very occasional one and pretty much spooked every time they took one. They've been fished for a lot, and I'm guessing they're pretty nervous taking mixers, so unless you can really start to feed and get them going quite heavily, build their confidence, I imagine they're quite hard to catch. And my single hook bait approach, which is what I was kind of forced to use because of the birds, just didn't really seem to work. I went and had a shower. I thought, you know, I'm not going to put the rods back out yet. I wanted to leave the swim free of lines. On a lake like this, they're very busy, and the carp become very aware of how many people are fishing the lake, which areas have lines in, which areas don't. So because the people had moved into my right, I thought I'll just leave my rods out the water and allow the fish to swim around my swim as much as they'd like, uninterrupted by my lines, with the plan of then casting out in the evening. So I had my shower, went down to the car park. They've got facilities on site, and yeah, had a shower there, freshened up, and then decided to go and have a curry with Scott. Haven't really seen much of him, you know, we've been at war in the old match. He's been up one end, I've been up here, so I went and had a curry with him, and it was then time to get the rods out for the evening.
Yeah, I just opted to change the bait for tonight. Last night I fished the krill. The main and only reason really I've gone and switched to the manila is I just had so much success on here in the past, and my good mates and the bailiffs use the manila all the time on here, the manila and crush nuts, and they catch a lot of fish on it. So I just switched over. I've got to pull out all the stops on L now. This is it, I'm going all out. And I'm just crushing them all up. I use either my thumbs or my teeth, especially my teeth with tiger nuts. Sometimes, I mean, I will do them previous to a session in the blender and that, but sometimes you just go, when needs mush, you know, just use the teeth, use the gnashers. Easy as that. Love nuts. Other than vegan, I'm actually allergic to nuts. Eggy, lads. I just like to trim them down. I like to take this edge off that sits closer to the rig ring, just because it gets like a bobble effect. And I actually see it, and well, it was a trial and error thing in the edge. I noticed a lot of round baits getting actually spat out, and it came out quite abruptly, and this sort of solved it. So I've just always done it since. Sort of trying to show you what I mean here. It just like drags smoothly, as opposed to when it's round, it like bobbles. Imagine it doing it on the fish's bottom lip. It's a no-no.
Once back at the swim, it's time to get the rods back out for the night, and it was a simple case of just repeating the process that I'd used to catch the 2 fish so far. So the right hand rod, that one went down the edge, I weighed a jobby again, like the night before, and that enables me, like I said earlier, to have perfect rig placement. So in the waders, lower the rig onto the spot, a little bit of bait over the top, not too much, just enough for a bite. And I was doing something slightly different, and that is using large boilies in the edge. I know these fish have been fished for a lot, and they've been fished for on the margins a lot too. And a method that doesn't really get used is large boilies in the edge. I was still putting little bits and pieces out because there are crays and stuff like that. So, you know, if the crays come in, nick a few boilies, you got the little bits there just to keep a bit of attraction. Pellets and that, they break down. You know, like I say, they're gonna give off signals even when the larger boilies are gone, if that was to happen, of course. The other 2 rods, I've put them up against the island, middle rod on the exact same spot that I caught the fish from this morning, and the left-hand rod, that's gone just to the left of that, about a rod length or so. And rather than fishing singles, I've borrowed a throwing stick off matey up the bank, and I'm gonna put some bait out. Once it gets dark, the gulls are a bit of a nightmare, so I'm just gonna wait till it gets dark, and once that light fades, I can just about see, then I'm gonna put the boilies out. Not too much, but just enough, hopefully, to defend from the crays, because a rod I had out earlier in the day had a bit of a nibble on it when I reeled it in. So the last thing I want to do is put 2 singles out and then obviously come reel in the morning and have no bait on.
I'm definitely going to get on the fish tonight. If them fish turn back up in the middle of the pond, it is absolutely game on. And it only takes 2 fish. 2 fish can happen in 2 minutes. Yeah, you don't even want to know what's happened this morning. What an absolute nightmare. It's really starting to be one of them sessions. I'm sure people can relate to it, where no matter how hard you try, just everything just seems to go wrong. I had a take just on first light, left-hand rod. There's loads of fizzing out there. Everything was sound, it's coming in perfect, and all of a sudden just started feeling grating. And then next minute, the middle rod's going, the right hand's going, and I've picked up a trailing spawn, and then everything just ground to a halt about 20 yards out. The fish was wallowing on the surface. It looked half decent as well. I know they all feel decent, the ones that you lose, but I could see this one on the surface, and yeah, the hook ended up pulling. I've had to redo all 3 rods again now, which isn't ideal at first light. But yeah, and then after that, my milk's even gone off.
Well, last night was an anticlimax to say the least. Got smashed by mosquitoes despite having a mozzie front. I locked 6 of them inside, got stung a few times, killed 3, went back, tried to go back to sleep, got done again, woke up and there's obviously some more left. I didn't get to sleep for a good hour after trying to go to bed, and I was shattered. And I've woken up this morning to my alarm at 4:30 with a horrendous headache. Rolled over onto my right hand side, didn't feel quite as bad if I laid that way, but yeah, it's just gone 6 o'clock now and I still do not feel great. Well, I feel alright to be fair, but my head is just aching. And I haven't caught anything. I was really confident of those right hand rods doing fish. Sorry, right hand rods, island rods doing fish. They were out there, I could hear them showing. Not in the numbers of the night before, but yeah, there was plenty of carp about, so I'm surprised they ain't gone, but one of them things. And I don't know how Scotty's getting on, so hopefully he hasn't caught a load throughout the night, and it's going to make my morning even worse. We shall see. We haven't got long left, but at the exact same time as I got a bite off the island yesterday, the left-hand rod, which was the additional island rod, has produced another bite. You'd almost certainly say that if these Linch Hill carp knew that by getting in this net, they can have a little bit of revenge on Scott Lloyd, who's caused them lots of heartache over the years, putting hooks in them all. They'd probably swim straight in. This one is not doing that though. Wonderful. Got a horrendous headache, but that has made me feel a lot better.
I haven't heard anything off El. Hopefully he hasn't had anything. Don't fancy losing the shorts as well.
You're losing the shorts as well. You're losing the shorts as well. You're losing the shorts as well. You're losing the shorts as well. You're losing the shorts as well. You're losing the shorts as well. You're losing the shorts as well. You're losing the shorts as well.
But yeah, it's getting quite late in the day now. Looks like it's signed and sealed. You never know.
Hey, he's a lovely old common. Bolted as always. Yeah, wicked. I should put it aside, mate. Both the same. Right. Well, here he is. A right gnarly old thing. 20 pounder, I reckon he's probably about 21 pound, which makes it 60 nil. My headache's starting to fade. I honestly didn't think it was going to happen. I thought the chance had gone, but here you go. All that's left to do now is pack the gear down, go around and see Scotty, and grab myself that final piece of his clothing. Right, one last look. Lovely fish. Thank you very much, mate. You well and truly have sealed the deal. Scotty ain't gonna like this. I look forward to watching the footage back. I know he would have been giving it the big one at the start. He ain't now.
I'm buzzing. Just sat there, the camera's around with Elliott. He's had another fish, so the pressure's been well on. But yeah, eventually got one. It's only a little one. Left hand has melted off. Still a lot of fizzing out on the spot though, so I reckon I'm going to get a rig back out quick. Might be time for a quick comeback. Right.
Where's your shoes gone, Scotty?
Stop it, mate, honestly.
I've got your scales. Didn't have a wooden spoon. Well, I've got your metal fork.
Nice one. Good job you bought them scales, lad.
When did you have? I see you playing that.
Yeah,
while I was packing my gear up.
Yeah, about 20 minutes ago.
Nice one. What is it?
40. No, it's only a lot going. So
All
my
right.
trainer's off then, lad.
Well, these don't count. This was well out of time, this, but you can tell you what, go on. I'll just because I can. I've got so many
Nice one.
clothes
borrow
on. You can wear them. Even put your grubby old feet in there.
Yeah, man.
All right, we'll do the pictures and then we'll call it a day. I've got a long journey home. You ain't got to go anywhere. This is home, isn't it?
Couple more nights.
All right, cool.
Right, let's do it, man.
After you. You want to wear them?
No.
Sure.
No, they stink. No need for the waders. Toes are already hanging, mate.
Where's your camera? Under your
It's just on
under
the
your
bed there, mate. You can sort that
I'll
out.
grab it.
Sweet. Reckon might have to weigh this one, you know. How many points are you on now?
70. Are we counting Tench?
What did we say for a single?
71. Oh my God.
That's a little banger, mate. We didn't actually specify how many points we get for a single.
It's a chub, isn't it?
Mate, these are more rare
You
than
said
30.
no points for a single. So not only have you tried to win with a carp that you caught out of hours, you've tried to win with a carp that you told me doesn't even count.
I didn't even know
This
these
is-
existed in here, mate.
this is
These are rarer than
desperation.
30s in here, I'm telling you.
All right, we'll give you 69 points for it then.
I'll just whip this net out for me, mate.
Yeah, sorry.
Nice one. Sweet.
Ready?
Yeah, one sec.
I might have to go in a little bit closer for this. That's the future right there.
Get the macro on it.
Up a bit, mate. Up a bit more.
Behaving. Definitely an offspring, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Hang on. Sorry, mate.
Oh, dorsal. Do you reckon this is weight wise? 8, 9 pound? 8 pound?
It's got to be.
Your tension's bigger than this. Happy? We'll flop around?
Yeah, go on here.
To the other side, never know. 20 years time.
Yes, good point.
Had it.
A lot of these commons in here have got that funny dorsal.
Yeah, just
Dunno if
missing the
that's
front
like-
end, yeah.
I don't know if there's something. Hang on.
Feel my ass hanging out because I got no boxes on.
You're lucky I didn't catch one more, mate. Otherwise, these pictures would be very different. Let's get me his head, little head shot. Look at me and smile. Pretend you did the North proud.
Bet you God I didn't catch any more.
All
Getting
good.
that t-shirt off. And
That's
you
all
put a
good.
stone on recently.
That's all, mate, it's stone and a half.
Happy?
Honeymoons. Yeah, let's get it back.
Yeah, man, sweet.
Do you want to hammer them out?
Yeah, go on,
Can
you
carry
grab
it?
that side. Nice one. Get it?
Let's go. Yep. Right, get a kiss that, Matt.
Yeah, man.
Ready?
Maybe. Happy days, mate. Let's do it again. Best of 3?
Deal.
Yes.